Ryan, good to see you
Sam,
again.
always a pleasure.
We had a pretty good brain-breaking discussion last time, analyzing your script, learning more about writing. That was really good.
And that was an absolute blast. And I'm going to have to pick your brain on some unreleased episodes in the future.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Today, we're going to go further ahead, looking at the exact opposite of that, going into vlogging. I've been finding so much that if you take like the extreme opposite of what you're working on right now, it's shocking how much you learn from that. For me, I've always viewed vlogging as, really low impact, low value. There's nothing of substance in there. But I've noticed that when I accidentally started going one route looking into it, I found out that it showed me so much more of what to do for more serious, in-depth things. And I'm starting to get the sense that there's actually kind of like a continuum between all of those, but more like a painting. You could say this is very serious and this is very, fluffy. And where on that line does it match? But it actually seems it's more like a painting where if you're going to make a really serious Baroque masterpiece, you're going to need some red, you're going to need some light, you're going to need some dark. If you're going to make, a little children's book, you're going to need some red, you're going to need some light, you're going to need some dark. And maybe one of these, like the Baroque paintings, probably going to be a lot better at those light and darks. And the fluffy kid thing is probably going to be a lot better at pinks and greens. But you're actually going to be using all of those colors in all of those genres. It's just a matter of which one's the main and which one's the accent. So going into this, it started off as, this is something that I want to learn right now because I'm going to be going on my trip to Finland soon. And it's going to be a good opportunity to practice that. I figure if you're forced to not use a good camera and you're forced to just do vlogging, take the opportunity and learn everything you can about it while you have this great opportunity. And, it can actually be kind of fun. But as I've gone through my research, I'm actually starting to find and see how this naturally helps out the main stuff we're doing. So I think this is going to be a lot more valuable than I expected.
Absolutely. And to be honest with you, I think that vloggers have to dive more into telling a story through video and using all these small techniques, because otherwise, whose life is interesting every day of the week? Unless you're just doing a travel vlog, you need to try and play up the story, make it interesting, make people want to come along with it. So it's great to look at what tools they're using.
Yeah, that actually is hitting on right now. The first thing I want to start off. Today, we're going to go and we're going to analyze this video from a travel vlog that a guy went to a Scottish distillery. And that just hit all of our buttons. It was super great. And it was one of those times where I can tell there's something special about the way he did it. And now that I'm coming back later, smart enough to actually start to recognize it and learn from it. But before we even get into going to that example, like you said, there's a different level of storytelling that you need to make a vlog have value to it, because there's not a huge amount of substance in there. I wanted to talk a little bit about that because I'm looking through the stuff I've seen, and I think there's kind of like a two-dimensional axis of going on. And the first is, at least in my opinion, I want to ask you about this first. It feels like there's a dimension of beauty and sugar versus value and information. If you go in, like the most famous example I know is if you're trying to learn something like editing or filmography and you're watching them on YouTube clips, it's going to be a healthy dose of fluffy stuff to make it fun and pretty, just to hold your attention, because, you're not paying a dime for it. You can't really be that committed to the learning. They need to do extra to hold you. But there will be a significant amount of knowledge in there as well. As soon as you pay for their course, you've actually paid money, so they're going to put more effort into it. But the visuals and the fun part are actually less. It seems like you get better at more, but it's like, no, you're more dedicated to learning this. We're going to just give you 100% of pure knowledge. And
you're literally invested at that point.
Exactly. So, like, first of all, there's no right or wrong type of content. So even if we sound like I'm talking that way, it's not. There's nothing that's bad about any of these on the line. But is it the right fit for the right audience in the right time? Just the point is, in this case, there is an extremely hardcore, just information only version. And then there's like a sugar wrapped information. And then I'm noticing on the other end, there is something that leans heavily on being sugar. And in my experience, that is what I think a quality vlog is. There was how I ended up going down this rabbit hole is there was this one video where there's this lady who was a vlogger and she was talking about how she had used her camera so much that it was falling apart and she's going to have to replace it. And in the context of the video, it's like she's talking about it as an old friend. And that makes a whole lot of sense to me because I've been actually having more time to learn the details of how to use my camera well. And it's amazing just how much it starts feeling like this is my friend and we've actually bonded more. So I thought that would be a really interesting video to watch, get some clips from and learn from. And as I started going through that, I started realizing there is virtually no information at all in these videos. There'd be all these comments saying like, oh, I binged all her stuff. It's so amazing. It taught me so much. I'm like, dude, it doesn't teach you anything. It says, work hard because working hard is good. It's like, okay, how and why? There's nothing there. But it's all so much beautiful shots and good music. And, it's more of an emotion thing than any kind of knowledge thing.
And that absolutely can still be teaching you something. I mean, having examples that you think are done well and done right and going to capture attention can help teach you, okay, I want to emulate this. She's using this type of shot here. This will probably work and capture the same emotion for me.
Yeah, that's actually what I was getting. Like, I wasn't learning anything from what she was saying. I was just learning from watching what she had done.
The opposite of the old mantra I always heard, which was, do as I say and not as I do. We're just doing the inverse. Let's look at what they're doing because it's capturing your attention. It's working. They might not even be able to explain what they're doing or how they're doing it. But let's look at that and replicate that.
That's a good point. There are a lot of things where you can do it, but you definitely, like if you're an 8 out of 10, you can do it. But you got to be a 10 out of 10 before you can explain to someone else. It's like, well, I can just show you. I'm not ready to teach, but take a look. And some things are so skill-based. Yeah. I come from a world where everything is a knowledge-based thing, where there's no motion or time component to it. It's just all raw information. But for other things, that wouldn't be actually helpful. This demonstrative just seeing it stuff. Yeah.
The best thing you can do is just start watching everything and start trying to pick apart, okay, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, or this feels really good. What is it that makes this feel good? Or this doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
What about this seems odd? Even just today, you sent me a video saying something about this just doesn't feel right. It feels like he's using a high-quality camera, but it just doesn't feel right to me. And sure enough, we started talking and figured out it was the camera was out of focus slightly. And it was just to an extreme where it was throwing us off and not making us feel like it was realistic anymore.
Yeah. You have an object that's about 2 inches deep. And if you get like the best camera in the world and stick back like 100 yards and have a super zoomed in thing, it's going to have such a narrow field of view that you're not even going to have the entire glass in focus. Like part of it's going to be completely blurred out. It's like if I was trying to look at your face and your eyes were in focus, but your nose was blurry and, your hair was blurry. Like, okay, that's not helping. You spent a lot of money to make it worse.
Absolutely. So let's do the same thing that we did with that video, with these vlogs, with any type of media, and just start picking out what works and what doesn't work and apply that to everything we want to do.
Yeah, I like this a lot. I'm going to hear what worked with me. I'm going to hear what worked with you. And hopefully when we start getting some responses from people, I want to hear other people say, you know what? I disagree with you. I don't like that. I like this because they're working on something different than us. They're working for a different mood. Because most everything is not wrong. It's just good for a different time. And the more situations we start to like build a repertoire of, for this situation, we need that, we'll be able to handle new experiences, environments that come up and already be ready for it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that lens effect we were just talking about where it's wrong for that moment. Sure, maybe if you're shooting, I don't know, like a Marvel movie and your hero gets drugged or something, you want things out of focus and feeling fuzzy and weird. Absolutely, that could help sell the mood.
Yeah.
That could help there's a time and place for everything. We just need to figure out, just because it's not working here, what is that time and place?
So the next part of that I was thinking is there's another couple of genres that I don't quite know how to fit into that scale, and I want to see what you think. For example, we have talk radio, and it's not exactly sugar. There's virtually no visuals. It's pretty boring to look at. Generally, the impression is it's all giving you information, but it kind of feels like we're just sitting there killing an hour. I don't really feel like I knew much more than I did before. And maybe what related to that is Twitch streaming. I would love to hear your thought on that type of content, because it's a lot of talking. It's probably not very scripted. It has a lot of value to people. What do you think about those two genres?
So for talk radio, I think you can absolutely add fluff to it that can enhance things and can go too far. And the first thing that comes to mind for me is the talk shows where they add too many sound effects to the point where it gets made fun of on TV, gets made fun of everywhere. Okay, they're introducing this host to the show and they use 6 sound effects, a bullhorn, all sorts of crazy things that just don't make sense. They're overdoing it. So you can absolutely do that. And then you can have little ones that come in and, okay, that was funny. That was well timed to help make a punchline to a joke. That's adding to the content. So I think you can still absolutely do things like that in radio. As far as Twitch streaming, I'm not the biggest consumer of that media, so I'm probably not going to be the most accurate with this. But I believe you can still have some integration with the people watching, where they can donate and a message comes up. Again, I'm not the biggest consumer. I've seen clips that friends have sent me, that sort of thing. I believe that's how it works. So you can make it more of a conversation rather than just someone talking at a screen. That would be what I would think is adding to it.
A conversation during the Twitch stream.
Yep. Instead of having someone just talking to a screen, now the people who are on the other side watching you through that screen can communicate to you. They can talk back or ask you questions.
Okay, so it's kind of like a chat with the text box of your viewers.
Absolutely. You're able to still interact with them, and that interaction helps get them more motivated to stay. They're more invested because you're now having a conversation with a friend almost.
Interesting. I'm going to want to, in the future, dive deeper into that and find out more. Because when I cracked open this box of vlogging and started looking into it, I found that so much of it actually applies to what we do. That it's like, oh, what is going on in Twitch streaming? There's probably more knowledge that we could benefit from there as well.
Hey, I think the best way to find out is let's try doing a live stream at some point.
Absolutely. That was on the checklist that I have. This is getting fun because we have ideas that I'm getting really excited about. And we have they're queuing up faster than we can get through them. This is pretty cool. So the next thing I wanted to get into is, before we get into this specific episode, talking about just general concepts, there's that axis of what level of information versus sugar. And then there is how much B-roll they make for it. I think that's another skill for us to look and analyze. We can talk about after the episode what we thought of it. And then there's a matter of sound design. Like, are they adding sound effects, music? Is it just one track for the entire episode? Does it, like some of them, you'll actually see they changed the song in the background. Like song, that's so dramatic. They changed the background music that's supposed to be so low-key that you don't even recognize it, depending on what the mood in the vlog is happening. And there's all levels of that. So that's another point that I want to look out for and then discuss after the episode is over. And yeah, I think that's all the main concepts to look for. So if you're ready, I'm going to pull up the video. We'll stream through it. Tell me whenever you want to pause it so we can talk about it, and we'll go through little pieces of it.
Sounds good. But before we start, I've got one thing I need to crack open.
I love that sound.
Who doesn't? So you had sent me this video before, and so I had the advantage of knowing that it's an Ardbeg Distillery port. So I'm drinking a specialty release that they did. What was this? Probably 2023's release, I think. Bizarre Barbecue, where they put it in barbecue casks, and yes, I do believe they put barbecue sauce in a barrel and then put whiskey back into it.
So how is it?
Delicious. It's an Ardbeg. What do we expect?
I've been thinking about like doing a vlog even before I got into this content creation stuff of going through Irish distilleries. So mastering how to do that well is something that I'm interested in this video for. But aside from it, there's just so much just beauty in this where it like, there's nature I love, islands I love, and it just felt like this vibe that was good to hang out in, which is a theory I have that I'm saving for after we watch it. But there's a lot of reasons that I'm interested in looking at this. So I'm glad you're well educated with the topic. Okay, let me get this.
I'm vaguely familiar with Ardbeg. You know, I've only got like pins of theirs. I've got bottles somewhere. I've got like a coin with their logo on it.
And if you could pronounce it, you definitely know what you're doing. Oh, are you able to see it?
It's a little small. Yep, I can see it.
Yeah, there's a little bit of struggle of doing the the little tiny teleprompter screen, but I think it'll work. All right, let me know if you can't hear the audio when we get going. But I'm going to be stopping it pretty often, and let me know if you need to stop it. All right, can you hear it okay?
I can. I just figured out how to make it a little bit bigger for me, too.
Great. So first of all, drop shadows. I fucking love drop shadows. It is my number one advice to everyone at any time. If you don't know what drop shadows are, learn it. It is easy, huge payoff. And every single time I see someone who doesn't use drop shadows, it's just cutting them off at the knees.
What I want to know is
beautiful. What?
What I want to know is that's not just like a text layer that they added in. They've got the logo online because there's no way that they found a text that has it. So that does a video editing software, because I'm not as familiar with it, are you able to add drop shadows to image like this and have it work, or is that something you had to like airbrush in by hand?
No, it's really easy. You can set a drop shadow to text, you can set it to an image, you can set it to a layer. Okay. They've made it so effortless that if you're not using it, it must be because you just don't know about it. And it's one of the quickest things you can learn and start getting a massive benefit from. So I highly recommend you learn.
The other thing I want to point out about just this intro that makes it so good here is, have you heard about the lines of interest where if you make a grid with 2 lines horizontal, 2 lines vertically, splitting it into thirds both ways, where the lines intersect is where your eye's naturally drawn to. If you look at where Ardbeg is, and if you look at the shot in general, they have it framed so that way the distillery's on the bottom horizontal line, and then they have the white sky with the black drop shadow framing the white text in the sky, so it has great pop in the other line of interest there.
Yeah, this is
and they have the start
gorgeous.
and end of the name also following that line.
Very, very well framed and composed. So again, like if you didn't use a drop shadow, you would not be able to see that logo. It would just be this muddy mass of gray in that sky. But with it, it's this beautiful logo on top of it. And clearly the guy not only took some time to look around and figure out, hey, what would be a good view? What should I do my first thing? I think it looks like this is pretty far from the path. He probably, stopped, said, I'm going there. See you guys. Walked for like 3 or 4 minutes off the path to get up there. He probably shuffled around like, oh, this is good, but maybe a couple over here, maybe here, like, oh, this is perfect.
This had to be a planned shot. Like, this was something where he said, okay, I know I'm going to do a vlog. I know I'm going to be here. I need a shot showing the distillery and leaving enough space above it for the text here.
Yeah. This is top 10 of the things where I kind of felt something when I watched this a year ago before I took all this training, but now I actually see how much knowledge went into it. Uh, like, first of all, this isn't just a pretty view. There's a lot of pretty views in this video. This is a natural establishing shot. It's the opening shot. It's logically the first thing that you'd want to have in the video because you see the entire site from a distance. You feel like where you are, you feel where you're going. It just emotionally, without any words in those 2 seconds, it feels like we are starting something here. My question is just how much level of knowledge and planning was he at? I wish we could like have a chat with the guy. I've done a lot of things where I'll film a whole bunch of stuff and then I'll agonize over the footage in the editor trying to figure out what should go first, what should go second. And I'm like, maybe this one or that one. And it's really hard. Do you think he actually sat down in his hotel room and planned all of these out? Do you think when he got to the site, he looked around and thought, okay, we're working here. I got this idea. Or did he go there full enjoying the moment tourist and just film everything he thought that looked cool and then afterwards in post started arranging things into what order that made sense to him?
To be honest, knowing that he's a vlogger, he's probably just taking opportunities. Like, we can see the road that leads to the distillery is coming down this hill that we're on. So he probably was coming in to see Ardbeg, pulled over and said, "This looks amazing, I'm getting a shot of it."
I'm wondering so much about that because I feel this is a place with a massive return on investment where I think this is going to be something where the first time you do it, man, it took me 3 hours to make that video. This is so not worth all the hard work. But by the time you've done it 3 or 4 times, like, oh, that took me 5 minutes. Because you just, like you said, you're just walking down it and say, oh, that looked pretty. But you would have the trained eye to go, oh, man, this will make a great establishing shot. This will be the nice for the first thing that I have. And then you're walking like, oh, this will be a nice mid shot. This will be a good, like, second shot. So even though you didn't spend a lot of time in the booth planning ahead of time, you're kind of able to do that automatically on the fly because you recognize it when you see it now.
I mean, even if I just had raw footage, I'd be either wanting to use this as an establishing shot or as the end.
Which kind of gets me to the next thing. Do you think he actually got this footage when he was entering, or do you think he took this on his way out and just put it to the beginning of the video?
I don't think he had like a tripod or anything, and his hands look very sturdy. So I'm going to say beforehand.
That is brilliant. Yeah, he hasn't had that many to drink. Good. All right, let's keep going.
Like, there's a little
wobble. A little bit. So, okay, we can't even get 2 seconds in, and we have to talk about something else. That's how you know someone's doing a good intro. Like we keep saying, like you need to have a high action-packed intro. A lot of things changing, a lot of stuff, a lot of visual sugar, a lot of immediately show the audience that you are committed and putting effort into it before you start getting into it. So just like that, we'll be stopping a lot in the beginning of the video, and then we'll have longer spread without pausing once we get into the body. Even in the first 2-3 seconds, he was changing the logo or text every second. So even in a shot that lasts 3 seconds, he still had something new to look at every single second. This shot also, I like it a lot. It's like, isn't this pretty?
Absolutely.
This is the next thing I was talking about. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Beautiful distillery. I need to get there.
Yeah. I love this for 3 reasons. One, it's a great, like just for shot list planning, it's a great choice because you're closer. It's a mid shot. It shows that progression. We're getting closer to the entrance. It makes sense in the sequence. It feels like you're emotionally having a rising action to the journey. Also, one thing that's really huge is having depth. That was the number one thing that I learned from that lady vlogger I was looking at is whether you have a fancy camera or just use your phone, having an actual like multiple planes within what you're shooting is a huge difference. He could go somewhere else where it's just a person standing next to a wall and there's only 6 inches of depth. You could go somewhere else where you have, okay, here's, a building and a barrel behind it. Okay, we got 2 feet of depth. This is something where you see, like, from where he's standing, there's probably like, maybe 5 feet to the end of the barrels. And then from where the barrels go all the way to the building, that's probably like another 30 feet. That's a lot of depth. To me, that makes the biggest impact on every single shot you make.
One other thing that I think he's doing here, and I don't know if this was intentional, but I absolutely love it, is in the very first shot that we saw, it was the distillery and then water behind it. And now it's water and the distillery behind it. And they've just flopped.
That's beautiful, Simri. That might just be something that would naturally happen, because the next part that's obviously great about this is you get a lot of depth if you have something in the foreground. And the easiest way to get something in the foreground, people will take the camera, they'll crouch under their knees until they're all the way near the ground, so that the ground, which is always coming 100% up to you, is like actually in the frame because you're so low to it. Instead of having to crouch down and like destroy his knees, he just went up to an object that was about chest height and put the camera over it. And then instead of it kind of just fading out of the frame, it comes up and gives you that feeling of depth all the way to the camera. I guess that's rainwater on top of the barrel heads. So naturally,
in Scotland, it's pretty common to see water on top of a barrel from the rain, I would assume.
But that's even better. Every single thing, you want motion. The reason, like we were talking before the show, that like I have to close all this stuff in my side screen that's showing the volume levels, because every single bar moving, I can't stop turning to look at it because your brain is primed to make sure that you don't have a cougar trying to eat your face off. The water, it moves in the wind and reflecting the sky. So there's a ton of motion going on those barrels on top of it without him having to have like a crane to pull the camera flying around and zooming stuff. There is a ton of motion going on in this static shot, which this is the high return on effort stuff that I'm really excited about, that I want to get from learning this vlogging stuff.
I definitely, as I try and get more into video, I'm going to remember that and try and look out for puddles of water and do a cool shot with that, because I absolutely love this one.
Yeah. A little tip that I got from the photography class I'm taking out here in Nashville. Be the master of your own destiny, Ryan.
Bring a water bottle.
Carry a bottle with you.
That sounds like a better use of my water than drinking it. I like that. I've got whiskey. Who needs this water bottle? Exactly.
So that's something I remember too. And this stuff, that's what gets me excited. There's so many things that look better but are hard. But there's so many other things where if you just happen to know it and get in the habit of remembering it, because I'm sure when I'm traveling, I'm going to forget these and go, oh shit, I wish I'd remembered to do that. But after doing that a couple times, you'll remember. You'll just naturally, as you're flowing through, oh, do this, pour some water, get that shot, get this shot. And everything will just kind of naturally be beautiful on the fly.
The other thing I love about this shot is it looks like the logo for Ardbeg is where your eye is naturally falling all the time. That's where it's naturally drawing you to. I mean, if you look at the barrels, it's not a straight line to the horizon. It's a little off center, and it's driving you towards that logo.
This is the kind of stuff that intrigues me. Like, I'd love to be a fly on a wall and see how long it took him to set this up. Was this something where, because I could imagine somebody who's either low-key or really skilled would just walk by and go click, click, click. It's like, I already knew. I did Terminator scan of this when I just walked in, and I could just go down, down, down. Or you could be someone who just walked around, take 3 photos, walk here, take a couple videos, and then you have for a 15-minute tour, you have 3 hours of footage, and you spent an entire 8-hour day doing it. I am tempted to just date a vlogger just to see how this happens. But I don't know if I could find one that I could trust to be as considered efficient instead of just, I don't care, I have a limited time and I want to abuse whoever my cameraman is.
I don't know, it'd be an interesting experience.
So I like that too. It's a nice, this is easy. Pan shots are hard. Rotating shots are easy. You can just do that twisting your wrist while you're walking. But this is a nice, beautiful, you see the entrance, the guy who's walking into it, you have motion. I feel like there's another thought that would be really easy to do, but also easy to forget if you never know. And man, it's added a lot. All right, 17 seconds in, we finally see the person.
And
What do you think about that?
If I remember correctly, this is like one of 2 or 3 times where we get to see it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which is really, really interesting for a blog. My goodness, I've not had this much drink, I promise. It's very interesting for a vlog to only have a little bit of the, well, in this case, I wouldn't even call him the main character of this story. I'd say he's trying to make us more the main character, and just here's something that I want you to experience.
And that's an interesting thing I'm thinking about, because there's a lot of different ways to do vlogs. There is, hi, here's me talking nonstop. But this, I think that's one of the reasons why I really liked it. It feels more like the hero's journey, and he's being the guide, but the guide gets out of the way enough for you to have something to do. It kind of feels like you are going on this tour in Scotland. I also really like the way he framed this. I wish you could see like what kind of lens he had, because as I'm experimenting with this, I'm finding it's really pretty difficult actually to have the camera be able to see around you instead of just seeing your face and being blocked because it's close to where your arm is only so long, you know?
Ethan,
but
I'm going to
yes.
solve that one for you. You just go like this.
Wait. How do you do it?
He's just taking a selfie, basically.
Super long arm in it?
Yep. That's all you have to do. That's all he's doing right now.
Oh, and he's get that answers 2 things, because the other part I love about it is he has himself split off in the third. So you have 2/3 of the camera to have a really good view of the background behind him. But that's going to be naturally going to happen. Instead of hitting the camera like here, you twist it off so that you can get your arm extra long. You're naturally going to get that 2/3 background. Dude,
super
I'm writing
easy,
that down.
But man, is it effective.
I'm putting that in bold. Give me 1 second so I don't forget it. Long arm corner.
You know how I recognize that so fast?
I think you've done it, have you?
Anytime I'm with my family, my mom wants me to take a picture, and I've got the longest arms, so in order to get us all in it, I have to just do that same movement, and I look that same way in the lens that he does now.
I think it's a good view. Cool. I've been looking into like what kind of like lengthening thing do you get, and, like 10 millimeter focal lengths and stuff like that. But just get your camera, put it off at an angle, dude. And this is something I want to get back to. I think we have to get comfortable with the fact that, oh my God, it's not perfect. I could spend 30 hours of my life and $10,000 to make it look, a little bit better. This looks amazing. Do this for maybe the next 2-3 years. Don't worry about the other like 10% until you've been doing this for a long, long time.
Last distillery tour of our trip, and it's Ardbeg. Now we've got here a bit too early. The staff have been really accommodating, though they weren't at all off put by it. It's a pretty grim day. Some of the ferries have been cancelled. We haven't got any news yet as to whether our ferry tomorrow is going to be cancelled.
All right, so I like this. 1, he's not standing there talking. 2, he's not standing from a wall. He got some depth of field, so there's him and something far behind him, and he's moving around, walking forward and rotating it, so there's a lot of visual interest to look at. The content of what he's saying, he's talking to kind of set the mood. I think the intent, what people are getting at, is trying to set the scene, but the real effect is all of the words that we ever say are just to create an emotion in an audience, and he's just cutting straight to that of, oh, it's kind of like a dreary, windy, rainy day, and the situation is because of that we might be trapped and we're not sure, we're trying to figure that out, and that's kind of where we're coming from and we're going to. So it puts this whole episode in a bit of that bookend context, like you've been doing with starting, your story with you learning the story, telling the story, and then finishing the story with, I'm here in my room finishing learning about it. What do you think about this?
Absolutely, that works great. And I mean, even just from a vlogging standpoint, if he's doing like a daily vlog or something, it helps recap what's going on that you may not have heard if you didn't watch yesterday's video. So that way you're not jarred and being thrown randomly in and not knowing what's going on. But the other thing that I really like about this little movement that he has of just spinning around while he's talking to you is the one thing that stays common in it is him. Everything else in the background is moving too fast for your eye to really track it. So your eye's naturally going to settle on him, and you're going to be looking at him while he's talking to you.
And what do you like about that?
Well, it makes it easier for you to want to hear what he's saying and pay attention, rather than going, oh, that's a shiny-looking copper still in the background, and it's gone. Okay.
Huh.
He's doing it at a speed to where it's making you focus on him.
Interesting. It's kind of the effect that a $6,000 camera would do with bokeh, only he's doing it with a normal camera just through motion, where the background is somehow out of your attention span enough that it feels like they're in nice, but it's a supporting role and you should focus on the center. I never noticed that. That's interesting. Ready to move forward?
I'm ready.
All right.
But fingers crossed we can leave on time, leave when we're supposed to. We'll see.
All right, so here we go. And he's transitioning to in the building. And I like this shot. I'm going to talk a lot about this just because this is something I've struggled so much with. And now I see him doing it. I'm excited that I can recognize not just that it feels good, but how they're doing it well. We start off with an establishing shot. This is, the gift shop. He's not just showing up a close thing. He starts off and does this, rotating view at a distance to show the whole thing. So we're kind of like doing an establishing shot again, only of this room. And then he's going to get a little bit closer. Then we switch to up close to get some detailed stuff. And all of this logically feels emotionally good. And I feel like looking at this is something that I could reproduce now. Actually going through this rewatch to prepare for today's episode, really a lot of the things about, planning shot lists have clicked together that I didn't really know. Like I kind of knew the theory from taking classes, but watching this, like, oh, this is why you would do it. And I feel like I could do that myself next time.
I want you to do a version of this just at Leaper's Fork, because I know you love those guys and they're a drive down the road for you. But man, that log cabin with the opening shot, you can go inside and they have that little mercantile shop where you can buy bottles, that sort of thing. You could absolutely do this shot. You could do a great video just on that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm going to actually write that down because that would be really good practice. Some of this is just emotional stuff where you have to get used to doing it. Talking to yourself on a camera in public is going to be probably about as emotionally stressful as playing guitar on the street. I mastered doing that, but it was really hard at first. It'd be better to practice that on my home turf than do it for the first time on traveling. Yeah. So this will be good practice before I head out.
Absolutely. Plus, it gives you an excuse to visit Leaper's Fork, and who doesn't want that?
Oh, hell yeah. Those guys are great. That place is beautiful, too.
So
But this makes me excited. I feel like so much of this, like, I would agonize over editing because I didn't know what should go. And it feels like, well, they both feel nice. Why would I pick this or that? And I don't know how to choose. Now it feels like, yeah, do this, do that. I have a direction to follow. It'll feel good and go faster. Okay, then we switch to the next room. This is the coffee shop or restaurant. Is this the most exciting part of the distillery? Maybe not. Is this probably the next room he went into when he was just on his morning? Maybe. I think it looks nice. I'm sorry, go ahead, Ryan.
One of the things that I think he may have done on purpose that he said wasn't really a benefit, but I think he absolutely did this on purpose, was he said he got there a little bit early And I think he got there like right as they opened. That way he could walk around and people aren't fully there yet. They aren't set up and people there talking, drinking. So he just is walking through this empty room because the employee's not even there yet. Taking this beautiful video, and it's quiet and just looks so nice.
That's another tip I would have for all of this stuff that I learned from drones, where if you go super early, you're going to have it more to yourself, and that's going to be less stressful because you're not going to have people yelling at you saying like, hey, you can't do that. Even though you can, it's still a pain and stressful to deal with them arguing with me that you can't. If you go in the morning, there's no one there. Closing time, it's always packed because things close at 5 or 6 o'clock. Bars close at 2, and that's when you have the most people. But for whatever reason, the beginning is when you absolutely have the least amount of people. And if you're going to practice doing something that's new to you or you're not comfortable with yet, yeah, you're right, Ryan. Showing up at like the crack of dawn or right when they open is the best time possible.
Well, again, if I was doing this, I wouldn't want an employee back there who's like trying to clean out the coffee machine for the day. I'd want to keep this a nice, beautiful, just still shot of things as I move around through it.
Definitely, it seems like it has a different vibe. Like if you go and you do a video of a place and it's full of people, it's kind of a decision you have to make. We were talking before about there's no wrong answer, but are you trying to show the people having a good time, the people celebrating, the drinking, the laughing, or are you trying to show the site?
I think right now we're still trying to establish the site. Later on, he's going to show people drinking and having a good time, I believe, if I remember right. So I think he intentionally did that of, all right, I want things quiet, I want to show it beautiful, I want to show the art first, and then we're going to get to the good time where everyone's laughing and having just a blast here.
That's another good point. It's another natural, unspoken, emotional art where it starts empty, it gets full, which naturally feels more adventure has happened and we're building to something. One thing I keep coming back to is everything we're doing, whether it's written word or video or even photo, it's all about transitions, transformations. If something didn't change, it's not worth people's attention. So this going from the outside to the inside, going from the empty distillery to the distillery full of people, those are all transformations that'll be interesting emotionally, even if you don't say a word.
If it went from being full to being empty, that would make it seem too quiet, too eerie. But going from empty to full, it goes, okay, I'm looking at the space, I see nothing wrong with this, and then when I see it full, it's, oh, this looks fun, now I really want it.
Yeah. Like you said, when it goes from full to empty, that's a natural thing where it's going to say, the video is supposed to end now. You can't do more. It's going to feel awkward and weird if you did. That was a sign of this adventure has ended.
The other thing, speaking of transitions, I believe we're about to do one, and I made a note of this. He seems to intentionally have the video cut into segments, and it's very clear, like going outside to inside, where that segment ends in his mind. The thing I noticed is rather than just doing a quick cut to a different shot, or doing it, he'll do like a fade out of one shot into another. He does a fade to black into the next shot.
Yes.
So I believe
that's these little subtle things I wouldn't ever say or notice, but now that I can see it like from inside knowledge, he must know a lot about what he's doing with his videography. Because like that, they're kind of like paragraph transitions, and then he has like chapter transitions. And it feels massively different when he does that.
That's got to be something where you just do it enough and go, okay, this is going here. Now we're moving on to this next. That was a good bookend. We're moving on to the next part of my journey. We're doing a fade to black so that way people understand, okay, this is next chronological. This isn't just me walking into the next room. This isn't me doing a close-up shot of something else. This is what happens next.
So I'm going to play a little bit more, and then I want to get your thought on what do you think about the sound design?
Come on in. Let's get inside the circle. Inside the spiritual home.
So the tour has begun. He's still playing background music, and he's playing a different song than before. What do you think about all of that?
So again, I think with the fade to black and then this, it made it very clear this is a new chapter to what's going on. To be honest, I think the sound design here, the big thing was his footage and sound of the guide talking was not the clearest over the wind. And I think because of that, he said, okay, because you can't hear him very well anyways, we're going to add a little bit of music so that way it has a little bit more background info. We're going to skip to the most interesting parts so you hopefully can hear him the best. And we're going to just have it be the experience of, it is windy outside. It is not a nice day. We covered this already. This is the experience of being there. This is the emotional, how it felt straining to try and listen to this man over the winds of Scotland as the waves hit across the rocks on the shore. It makes you feel like you're there rather than this is clearly staged and made by the Distillery and using a very nice $4,000 microphone so that way you can hear everything he says with perfect audio. And there's no wind. It's making it feel more human, like you're actually there.
That's interesting. I was imagining it was doing something with a different intent, but all of that does result exactly like you say. More enjoyable to listen to the background music than listen to the wind whipping through it, because that's kind of an obnoxious noise. So that would still give you the same feeling, but in a more pleasant version of it.
And it's more interesting. I mean, who wants to listen to wind for how long does this go on for? Not even 30 seconds, but still. No one wants to just hear wind for that long. You want something a little more interesting, something to keep you there.
Okay, so then moving on. Even when they go indoors, he still has the background music playing during the guide's tour explanation. What do you think about that?
Even well inside, I think it's more so to show you that, yeah, this is just the emotions I was feeling at the time. It's this more upbeat, happy, just interested in it, but only slightly to the point where this is really fun. It's helping give you the emotion of being there. If you actually wanted to go get the tour, you'd watch a tour done by the Distillery where it's high production, or you want to go there and do it yourself. But if you want just, this is how the journey felt for me, here's something I can use to help put that emotion into it.
I like that. You make it feel like how it felt for me there, because they always say, like, well, the camera's going to reduce some of the intensity just because the distance and whatever. But also the difference between I'm watching a video is going to feel less intense than I was actually there. So if you wanted to make the audience feel the same way that you felt there, you're going to have to add extra stuff on top to crank it up to that level that they would feel.
There's only two ways to really do that, and that's one, just be there in front of camera talking. That way they can see, they can understand what emotion you're feeling, everything. This guy doesn't do that. He instead uses tricks like adding music to let you know what he's feeling, what it was like, make it more of the emotional experience.
And that's kind of the revelation I've gotten from all this like vlog learning, is how much of it's not about information, how much it's about emotional experiences you're giving to people, which has made me realize that a lot of the education stuff that I admire is that still a certain amount of giving people the emotional experience, whether it's to keep them motivated enough that they'll actually go through something really boring but important that they'll need, or, you know, other reasons. But this is like kind of like a gem that I feel like I want to paint into more of the stuff I create. Which is, again, why I think it's really important to look at the different genres, because you can look at, okay, what's the really hard stuff? Don't care. What are the things that they do in this genre that's super easy that I could effortlessly add into the stuff that I'm doing? You know, take the low-hanging fruit from every genre, and I think you could make something really cool.
Out of curiosity, what were you thinking the sound design intention was to have the music here?
I flat out, I love it. I like it. I think I'm going to have background music through my entire videos, even if I'm talking, if we're doing a documentary, if we're having a very serious conversation. I really liked the background music. My feeling was that I would think it's fake or artificial and not like it, but I enjoyed the mood of it so much. I think it's one of the two things that made me love this video enough to come back to it 3 times over the past year and a half, learning more from it each time.
I am glad to hear that.
All right.
I think that would be very good.
Sorry if I'm talking over you, but sound balance is still pretty off.
No worries. I'm just trying to look up, make sure I have the right person. I believe I do. I'm pretty sure both songs that we've heard are by Kevin MacLeod. And I can send you his name, but he makes a ton of copyright royalty-free music. Definitely check him out if you haven't. Like, once you know what songs are his, 90% of the YouTube videos you watch are using his music.
Yeah. I know he does credits at the end of the video, and the musicians there, his name is also, can double check on that. And that's a huge thing. I've been making a list of things about the flywheel effect of content creation, things that take an enormous amount of effort before you can even get the first drop out. But then once you have it, it becomes really low effort to get a ton of value out of it. And one of it is learning your library of music, because there is a lot of really good royalty-free music out there, but it's going to take a long time to listen to it. You can't just flip through it like albums, and you can't search through it like Wikipedia. You got to listen to it. And I think you start favoring the things that fit your vibe. And there's the different genres of moods you're trying to create. And within all those moods you want to create, there's a subset of genres of music that will actually fit who you are as a person. But it's going to take a long time to collect all of those. But once you do, it's kind of, well, for video like 17, we're doing this. Oh, I need this vibe. Bring that song out again. And it'll go super fast. But this is one of the things I actually kind of like just nail down. Fuck off to an island with nothing but Wi-Fi and listen to royalty-free music for 5 days and start collecting all this stuff.
Man, and if you want a shortcut to do it, absolutely just watch YouTube. Again, 90% of the songs out there are Kevin MacLeod, and just remember what song for what emotion in all those videos, because they always use like the same 5-10 songs, if you want to be generous, 10, and just use those for the same emotions, because if people are watching on YouTube, they've probably watched a bunch of other YouTube videos, and they already know, oh, this song works for this emotion. They're not thinking it, but subconsciously, that's what they know. They've been trained.
Bro, like, I have a playlist on Spotify that I've had for about 5 years, long before I ever even thought of buying a microphone or getting content creation, of some of my favorite music. It was actually like my date dinner night playlist. And it was so hard to like Shazam and find the authors of all these music, because it wasn't actually professional music. It was all background music for free off YouTube. I was like, so this is what I love. We've learned something about who I am as a person. And half it's like from this snowboarding channel, which was just, I loved it so much. I'm like, yeah, this is some of the best music I've heard. I like this vibe. It's not trying to be overbearing. It's like trying to just like create a mood around your experience. And that's what I wanted. And
oh, that's how I got my alarm clock now, is I listened to a video, fell in love with one of the songs, and it just starts out so gently and slowly ramps up, and eventually it adds in a bagpipe. And I was like, this is perfect for an alarm clock. I'll slowly wake up, and if I don't get out of bed, all of a sudden there's going to be a blaring bagpipe, and my fiance is going to roll over and punch me.
Oh, that's genius. Okay, let's keep moving. I'd love to figure out the audio balance next time so we can talk over the video while we're going, but I can only hear one at once. But, we're about to get to like the body, which is going to cruise by a little bit faster.
Absolutely.
The distillery. This is just a light breeze from the island, you understand. 1815. So on the ground down here, it says we were established in 1815. Doesn't really tell the truth. That's an official start date. We were here making whiskey before 1800.
Okay, I think I shut down the video audio so I can hear you better.
There's a village
You
here
did.
of 200 people.
Now the music's a little hard to hear, but it's still
Oh, it's
there.
too
It's
quiet for
still a
you.
little
The courtyard,
whimsical.
2 kilns. This building where we're now standing, there used to be the brick outline here, is what used to be a peat shed. So it was the fuel store that fired the kilns, basically. There's 200 people living here, 60 men working here. Whiskey was very popular. That's why there were lots of people here. But it was all on the back of something that wasn't quite...
Because basically you're just
the
chilling out,
taxman, at least.
just showing what the day
Been a
was.
bit of a
It doesn't need any
roller
editing, doesn't need
coaster
work.
ride since then.
But you've done all of that front-loaded
Ardbeg,
stuff to
as a
hook
distillery,
people in
has
the
been in and out of
beginning.
production a few times.
That's what you're supposed to do.
In a bad state of repair. Prior to us owning it, Glenmorangie
The
owning
one
it,
thing that
the
I
distillery was
don't
owned by
really
Allied.
like about
They
this
also owned Lefroy down
is
the road.
the
They were using-
fading into the next bit and having nothing really change. It's still the guy talking. It's still people next to him standing around. The sky is still gray. It doesn't look like anything's changed. So in our heads, as he just keeps doing this transition and nothing changes, it makes it feel like he was standing here for an hour waiting for this guy to stop talking.
Yeah.
Which
The
might
product
be
for
the
blending.
emotion he's trying to
So
go
if there are no
for,
other
but
questions, we will go.
I don't know. I'd be
We'll
interested.
take a
I'd
trip round
be
the distillery. It's
listening
not very big.
attentively,
It's not like
wanting
some of the
to
other
hear every
distilleries
word
in
he's
Scotland
saying.
You might have visited. I'll take you to meet our most important member of staff. Not a person, a machine. Come with me.
So like this, you got him falling as you move down the road.
Can you go back
And
just
then-
a second?
Button. Yes?
Can you go back just a second there to where it has them just before this even, the very end of that last clip where he's talking. Because he sped up their walking as it's transitioning out, and that's such an interesting choice.
Yes. So let's watch that again.
Take you to meet our most important member of staff. Not a person, a machine. Come with me.
And now it speeds up, and I mean, I would have just cut to inside at this point, I think.
I felt the same way. It feels so much more of that transformation thing. You're not just cutting to it, but also you're not boring us to tears. You make it go really fast, but you feel like, wow, we really went a lot of place. You feel all that ground and distance and change that happened.
And it looked like you were going fast and zooming into a building, and now we're still outside. That it feels like it's a little disconnected there.
I see what you're saying. Today I was practicing with doing those manual transitions. Yep. That could be improved.
You might be in luck. As we come back round, if you hear the noise of bungs being knocked into casks when we come out of the still house, then you could be in for the treat of the day.
That I'm jealous of. Getting to try new make Ardbeg. Oh, I am jealous. But one thing that I think now would be a good time to touch on, the little text that comes up at the bottom with a little bit of shadow around it, so that way you can clearly read it.
Mm-hmm.
Having it that way is very interesting. In my mind, I think it would be easier just to start talking into your camera at a different point and be able to cut that in, or even just add in a voice clip while you're doing a walkthrough, and just almost have it be like Star Trek, where you're just doing Stardate, whatever. We got to try new make Ardbeg. It was amazing.
So you
Just
had the
have your
voice overcut it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think that might be a little bit easier post-production work, but different styles.
Yeah. It's like, it is one extra step, but it's not a huge step, so a lot of people don't do it. But I've been noticing, like, that one girl who I was analyzing, it was basically, there's two characters to keep it from being boring, but the characters are her in the moment and her voiceovering afterwards. And it really does give like a different vibe to it, even though they're chronologically interwoven.
When you're doing something after the fact and just recording into a microphone like this, you can have as many takes as you want, you can script it out as much as you want. You don't need to be on camera, so you don't need to worry about looking at that. You can look and read your script. And again, I'm going to reference Anthony Bourdain. I think this show does such a great job of this, where it's him in the moment, having a great time, eating whatever weird food it is, enjoying the culture, and then it will cut to just beautiful B-roll of like a ship out, speeding along the water, shots of the jungle, wherever he's at, a beautiful shot, and it's him voiceover with his very different style of writing. It makes it very clear that it's two different things.
I want to get into that more because part of like, separate topic but related, I've been going through my writing studies for the past 2 weeks. I'm still focusing on that. And one thing I noticed is having so much of two things happening, two different things. And the people usually use as contrast, but that's not the right word. We're not trying to like make two really stark different things to like apart. It's just going from one to another. And if it's going from, okay, we're going to go from the in the moment vibe to the voiceover vibe. We're going to go from the improv vibe to the very well-crafted, poetic, scripted vibe. We're going to go from, in the moment to after. Whatever it is, it has that feeling of difference. And the fact that you're going back and forth over and over, it gives this breath to your content. Because when you breathe in and you breathe out. And neither one's really better or worse, but having those moving, it feels like there's a movement, there's a life and going to it. And as many dimensions as you can have doing that throughout your content at the same time, it gives that more intensity to that feel.
If I can put on my whiskey sommelier hat for a moment, and because I don't get to break that out too often, I'm just casual drop there. In pairing for like food and whiskey or tea and whiskey, whatever you want to pair with it, I was taught there's 3 ways you can do a pairing. You can do contrasting flavors, where it's two things that are very different but work well together. So if you have something rich and savory and smoky, pair something sweet and tart with it, because it'll be a very different flavor. And it will be a little jarring, but it will absolutely work. You can complement something by having similar flavors that always go together. And then you can just have weird shit that works. And those are magical when you find them, but you can never predict it. I think the same thing happens with video, audio, all that.
I feel like you just explained like the question that I was struggling with. Complementary. You can have two things that are similar, but they're not identical, and that still gives you like a feeling of breath because you've moved from here to there, even though they're kind of in the same zone. All right, let's keep moving.
Again, he's using that fast forward effect.
Come on in. My record in this room is 33 people, so you can keep on coming. Robert Bobby Mill, something that is really difficult to find in distilling today. Of the 6 that we think are anywhere in the world still in the production.
In this context, I think the text is the right thing to do because you can't put your voice over the guide's voice without losing one or the other, but you want to have a little extra context.
At the same time, though, if you're reading that, you're not really listening to the guide.
Good point. So bad timing to use it.
I would be using this during like a transition or some B-roll or something. And at that point, you might as well do a voiceover. Now, if he's trying to hide the fact that, our guide was not mic'd up and it was hard to hear the audio, this is a good way of getting a similar point to what he's saying, but not having them focus on the audio. You're kind of hiding it by painting something else red and drawing the attention.
I've seen the text over the speaker work really well, but now that you're making me think about it, it's always been a maximum of 3 words, where it's an exclamation, but it's not a new thought you have to cram in your head.
This just feels like 2 competing thoughts that are right on top of each other, and the text is fleeting, so you're either going to get one or the other.
Cool. Well, I don't want to actually just completely recycle his entire content without, paying him licenses. And, we're about an hour in, so I'm going to skip further ahead and we're going to start cutting through this bit.
Absolutely. We don't want to show off the whole tour. Can we link this in the video or in the description so that way people can watch the full thing? Because it is a very well done video.
Absolutely.
And
So we'll just do some
tell
of
us
the,
if there's things we missed.
Yes, tell us more. I would love to hear even more outside questions because there's too many things for even us to handle. So here we actually enter the tasting room, and the establishing shot's a close-up, which is an interesting choice, but it kind of fits like it because it's supposed to feel cozy, and I just love how this darkness looks.
This is our tasting room. This is it. We have no other facility.
And this is where you get the feeling that you have people, and it's more lively now. There's more people in frame. A lot of times when I've been tempted to do this kind of stuff at distilleries, they're in the way. And I'm just trying to avoid people. But this is beautiful. This is educational for me that I see, here's a time. And there could be other times where you want people in frame. That's actually a bonus, and you can capture that. I like this.
The other thing, we're looking at that rule of thirds again, and we're looking at the vertical lines. The one on the left is showing off the bottles with glowing wall and looks beautiful. And then on the right, it's between him and the other people on the tour. So it's drawing you to a crowd of people, not just one specific person. That's
some clever framing. I've seen a video where it's how do you take 10 people and make it look like an entire packed stadium? How many people are in this distillery? Is it 4? Is it 30? All we can see is, 5 people, but it feels like a lot. And what feeling you make is really everything.
But it doesn't feel like you're too crowded. It doesn't feel overwhelmed. It doesn't feel like you're being pushed off to the side. He found a good medium with that. And I really like how he did that.
This is interesting. You really make me think of the purpose of vlogging. Because we're not trying to do a documentary, but there's another scale that we have to work on. How much, if you take me away from we're just trying to show the truth and say, we're trying to create for the audience the emotional truth, what it actually felt like for me. There's actually a dimension beyond that I've been noticing vlogging of okay, in this is this how crowded or how cozy or how fun it felt. And he's just capturing or doing whatever he can to make it look like that, even that not actually, he could be cheating some ways to make that feeling come across. But a lot of people I've been watching in my research, they flat out say, this is not my life. This is not how I felt. This is just a character that would be enjoyable for you to feel. You were talking about the guide thing, the character, the speaker, the lady's on camera 100% of the time, but the point is not about her. It's about what stuff you're feeling that you should maybe take an action on or ponder or think. And if you got down to it, so how much of that do you think about? None of it. I figured that out a decade ago. This is all old hat for me. I'm just worrying about stock markets right now. But for the people who are interested in what I'm doing, this question's important to them. So I'm going to just take them through that. People don't connect well with abstract theory. They connect with personal stories, and it has to be the story of the person speaking. So we'll say so today I really had to think about why I am just procrastinating so much. And the audience is yeah, I'm worrying about that. Let's go through that journey. I'm totally done with procrastinating. But the fake character, not insulting, but fake is an honest word, that they're doing creates that, imagined character, which is useful for the audience at that time. And that's another decision that I'm mulling over that I'm going to want to hear your thoughts about in future episodes too.
One of the other ways around having yourself fake having an issue or things like that is to create a fake personality or have someone else come in and just introduce a problem that you need to solve or you're going up against. And I've seen that in a lot of videos too, where it's very clearly themselves still, just speaking in a deep voice or having like a voice changer on or something. And it's very obvious what they're doing, but it helps set the parameters, it helps establish things, and it's a great way of starting.
Yeah, it could be interesting. There's a lot. We're not going to be able to cover it all in this one episode. I want to do another vlog episode someday in the future, but I think there's a lot more to learn here than I really expected. I'm glad, humbled myself to just give it a shot and find some good stuff.
I'm looking forward to seeing what you learn through practice when you're on your trip here.
Yes. I got some things on my list to practice here and then practice when I get out there. I'm trying to prepare not just my luggage, but prepare my skills.
Good news is those are easier to pack.
Okay, keep moving. So he talks here for a while, and then we'll skip the tasting part. Then when he's done, transitions. Unspoken, the meat makes it.
So we do have control, but it's never usually wrong. It's exactly the same every single time. They're very, very consistent at the moment.
Yeah.
And I just want to point out again the symmetry of going into this room and leaving it is basically the same shot.
It might be the same shot. I don't think this guy took a separate shot before and after. I think just reused one or the other.
Honestly, probably. And it works great because you saw how far we skipped ahead there.
Mm-hmm.
Standard person isn't going to remember B-roll for 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Like, that was one thing I was getting from looking through that one lady vlogger, where she actually does a shot list and storyboard before she records any episode. And you could actually, and maybe reading between the lines, write a storyboard and shot list before you leave your house to go to the tour site. You're not getting there and you're like, oh, that's pretty, I should take the video. You should have it all planned out before you even get there. It looked like that would get a massively better product, but you actually get to relax more because you go like, oh, this is nice. Okay, this is what I planned for. I'm going to grab this. And at the end, like, I don't need to re-record this. I know I have that. I can just be in the moment and enjoy this part the second time.
I mean, maybe go get some bonus ones as you see the opportunity. But if we can go back for just a second, I saw in my notes one thing that we didn't talk about, and that was the fact that when you're in that room, the camera is slightly pointed up at the guide. So you're forced to look up to this person.
Yeah, I think so much is naturally happening. I'm pretty sure it's just a travel tripod, which is short, and you're like, I'm stuck with this, and this sucks, and I wish it was taller, but I don't have the space or the time or the room, and it happens to make it better in this situation.
I think this is something intentionally done by the guide, where he's on a bit of an elevated platform speaking down at people, but it still works so great, because I'm looking up to this person who knows a lot about what he's talking about. It gives you a little more authority.
There's so many things that would happen naturally or by accident that if you pay attention and notice, like, oh, I want to force this to happen in the future because I liked it.
Sorry, my laptop is saying it's going to die, and for some reason my charger is not wanting to... Okay, there it goes. For some reason that outlet wasn't working.
Okay, let's keep moving then.
There we go. An in-depth and very character-filled.
And he's walking out. If you had dead silence, you know this is a transition to the end of the story. I love it.
Tour at Ardbeg. The weather has not really calmed down. I guess it has a little bit.
Text-wise, an update on the weather conditions. Like, that was like the end cap. This is what we were thinking about before. This is what we're thinking about the end. You feel like the transition on that same topic.
Walking away
Well,
with
again,
a
it's
sample of...
bookending it where he started talking and now he's ending with himself talking. To skip ahead even a little bit, there's shots of the distillery at the beginning, and now there's shots of the distillery at the end, and then him talking in between, and then between that's the tour.
These are the little things that I wouldn't think to do. And they take such a small amount of the percent of the video and a small amount of the time that it took to actually shoot it. But man, it makes it feel so much better than just, well, the tour guide finished, end of video, fade to black.
And then I also believe this is the same music that he had at the start of the video.
Oh.
So again,
There's-
it's all these tie-ins to perfectly bookend the start and end.
And more flywheel stuff where it sounds like, oh man, he changed the music 5 different times to the video. This is so much work. How are we going to like, no, there's music for indoors. There's music for outdoor. There's only 2 songs. You only have to make 2 decisions. You know when to change it. This is easy once you just get it going. Extra action shot, him holding at the glass and moving it around while he's walking. But I got to say, do you think that they let him leave and go home with the glass and leave with an open drink? Or is he walking out making this shot and then he goes back in and returns the glass?
Honestly, I think this is like an outdoor drinking area because you see like picnic tables in the background. So I think this is go outside, enjoy a drink because there's actually sun for once. This is a rarity to us. Enjoy it.
Good. I like the guessing how the shot was made with you. This is helping a whole lot for me.
Again, if you were doing this at Leaper's Fork, they have that little outdoor patio section where you can absolutely have their glassware, have a drink, and do this exact same shot.
I'll point out another thing with the lenses. You see this as a YouTube video. It's being shot in horizontal at the same amount of range from his face. He gets so much more visibility about what's happening behind him than if he was filming in vertical for Instagram or TikTok.
The one interesting thing about this is he's clearly doing more of a bent arm like this and having it more him in the center versus long arm and being on the third line.
I like this. Something I'm got to learn about real fast. Experiment, because my plan was I was going to focus on hardcore learning through experience, vertical video while I was out there. But there's something it's good at, there's some things it's bad at, and this watching YouTube is only teaching me how to do things like not that I can't do with vertical. So I want to soon do some more breakdowns on good examples of vertical videos because that's what I'm going to focus on. Holding the camera like this when you're out is a lot more different than just doing this when you're out.
The one thing I've noticed as just a trend, and I could be wrong about this, but this is my own personal experience that I've noticed, is if it's a long form content like a 13-minute video, it tends to be horizontal.
Yep.
If it's short form, just YouTube short, reel, whatever, it's vertical. And it's just knowing, okay, this is going to be a great short, I'm going to film this vertically, versus this is something that's going to be used in a bigger video, I'm going horizontal.
You know, that comes back to another thing of me actually needing to learn to sit down and plan ahead of time. If I plan my shot lists beforehand, I mean, you can't, every little rock and pebble because you haven't been there, you don't know what it looks like, but you can plan like what types of things you're going to get ahead of time. Also planning, am I going to be making a 1-minute video or going to be making a 15-minute video? Plan that ahead of time. Have that intent before I go out. That'll help a whole lot.
Well, I mean, you could be shooting a video like this, and then let's say they let him film them pouring him some of the new make. I would absolutely flip my phone out, have that vertically, and just take a short of that and post that.
It'd be interesting if I had light enough of a mirrorless camera that I have this one in horizontal, and then I have my handheld camera, a phone for vertical, and it goes dual wheel like that. It would also save you the trouble of trying to sort them up, because in my experience, it's a huge pain in the ass to go like, okay, horizontal, vertical, horizontal. Like, you gotta pull them all apart and then sequence. It's a big mess.
Yeah, I think you just need a bit of intuition of what form of content this is going to fit the best, and know, okay, because of this being a long form, let's do horizontal today.
You're kind of hitting on like the main hard part for me. I want to use this experience to learn about vertical by actually just practicing a whole lot of it, forcing myself to practice vertical. I don't watch much vertical. I watch a fuck ton of horizontal YouTube videos that are 10 to 20 minutes long.
That's because you have an attention span still.
I'm still convinced, just like vlogging turned out to be super important, even though I derided it. I think vertical is going to be really important for a lot of ways, if nothing else, just to get those little hooks of attention span. Because there are people out there that I realized who are incredibly intelligent, massive attention spans, who are going to be interested in the deep stuff that you and I want to create, but they're very busy. They're very busy precisely because they're making these cool things just like we're making. And if you're able to show something interesting in 30 seconds, that'll actually get through the cracks of their busy day. And they're like, oh, now I'm sold that it's worth to see a 15-minute video. But if that didn't exist, they would never budget time for it.
So again, it comes back to knowing, will this make a better 15-minute video, or will this make a great 45-second to 60-second video filming vertically for people who are scrolling on TikTok?
I'm going to need to have some short form videos someday. Like, we keep coming back to, you need to have all the skills. You can't just be a horizontal long form person. You need to be both. And in my experience for this past year and a half, trying to learn 2 or 3 things at once, you just learn crap. You go so slow. You have to suck it up and say, I'm going to turn everything off, close all my books, put everything away except for one tool, and just focus on that for even a week. You're going to learn a ton. So I got to sit down, find some vertical travel examples to watch and learn from, and then practice trying to emulate those vertically. And I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot of tough skills that a year from now, we'll be talking about how grateful I am that I learned how to do that, because it came in handy here, 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 and here.
One of the things, and we should talk to Corey to confirm this, but one of the things that I've noticed, and I think he's doing it this way, is if it's something spontaneous, he tends to be doing vertical, and this is going to be short form. If it's something where, okay, I'm planning a shoot, I'm planning a visit to this distillery, I'm going horizontal, I'm getting real cameras, real microphones, and we're doing long form.
Yeah. You know, make me realize, I'm realizing how much low-hanging fruit there are, how much low-ball things you can do that have a huge impact. You know, like the little rail video I did. That was, are you allowed to say good things about your stuff? I really liked that. And it was very easy to do. And I think there's a ton more.
It seemed like something where it's very spontaneous, just you walking along a railroad. That is the great time to have a vertical short form content. You wouldn't want to shoot a 15-minute video of you walking on the train tracks. So I think that's kind of the rule of thumb that I've noticed, and I think Corey does a great job of naturally falling into it. Again, we need to talk to him, because I want to find out if he knows he's doing it, if that's actually true, or if he has a different rule. I can be completely wrong here, but I hope that he is, and I hope I've noticed it right, and I hope that this isn't insulting to him.
We'll have to find out. There's some things that people are just natural savants at, and in my experience, the people that had to learn it by struggle are the people who can teach it the best, because they know all the details that went into it.
I feel like he's probably just such a master at it that he doesn't even think. He just goes, oh yeah, this is going to make a great quick video, and just naturally does that, and he doesn't even think about it. I'm 90% sure that's where he's at. Maybe I'm not giving him enough credit, and he is thinking about it and planning it out, but my God, he makes it look so easy that I have to believe it really is that easy for him.
I think maybe the easy or the important skill would be like knowing when to do which, but I think it is becoming shocking to me how many easy things you can do that have a high value. Everything that I've been doing is, this will be really hard, but it'll pay off. That'll be really hard, pay off. And I've been kind of blind or whatever for all the things where this is easy. And it's embarrassing that I did something that easy. It turns out that actually has a huge amount of value. Like, I should be doing more of that stuff that has a high return on effort. So trying to stretch out and try more things.
We both should be doing more of that. And I've been slacking for a while.
That's kind of like the focus of what I'm doing right now with, I'm always going to be working on the writing, but this vlogging thing of the trip is like, how many things that are really low effort turn out to have a lot of value, and I find out which things actually were a waste of time, but that's going to be another thing to put into our quiver. Let's finish off this video, and then we can analyze it in post.
Sounds good.
The Ardbeg Drum Committee release, which is it's an interesting whiskey. It'll be really interesting to try it from a sensible glass after, having a clean palate. I've lost my wife though. Need to try and find her.
I like this shot so much, and now in hindsight, I know that it's not even on purpose. So watching this, you have this feeling of it looks like his wife's been waiting for him, and he found her, and now he's sitting down to her like, hey. And I realize now that he found her, he said, this looks pretty, sit down here. I'm going to walk over there to put the camera down, and then I'm going to walk back from the camera to our seats and sit down. But that natural thing of walking from the tripod towards their seat gives it this beautiful look of like he went on this little bit of a walkabout and then is coming to like his resting spot, which visually makes such a perfect mood for the end of a movie.
Oh, it's such a great shot. I love it.
Beautiful framing too. Again, I wish I hang out with one of these guys and see how long do you spend finding a place. Was there like a nice spot on the complete opposite end of the compound that looked nice too, but was almost as nice? And then you came to decide like, oh, that looks better. Oh, I'm not sure. I got to go back and look at that one too. Like, how long does it take to find something this good?
I want to know how the fuck do you get so low to the ground to go, yep, that looks great. I can see the ocean, I can see the building, and I can see the sky. Because I don't want to lay on the what probably is going to be rocky and wet ground long enough to get this set up. That sounds very uncomfortable.
I actually do more squats for photography than I do for the gym. I'm getting really good at lunges and squats because I'm always getting down super low. And then
I don't
you
think
take the
I
camera.
could squat low enough to get this frame and see it for what he has there.
Well, what you do is you switch to photo mode, and then you put your arm down until it's actually touching the ground, not your face. And then you take a couple photos, and then you lift up and you look at the photos you took and like, how'd that look? Sometimes you'll take the camera, say video mode, and put it down, and you kind of just sweep it around to see what are all the things I could see from that point. And then you watch the video of it slowly seeing like, oh, okay, that's an angle I'd want to get. And then you hone in on it.
See, that there is one of those little tips that I've never heard and makes so much sense, and I'm going to have to steal that. And I'm upset I never thought about it.
I have been putting in a good number of hours of doing some photography and videography outside. Very little of it actually makes the cutting room and gets onto a video, but I'm doing a lot of stuff pretty much every day. Like I said, I really feel like my camera is becoming like a close friend to me. Like it's been hanging around for the past year and we've been having good time together, but lately it feels like we're really getting close.
That's how I feel about my microphone, man. It's great.
What changed for you with your microphone?
Huh?
What changed for you with your microphone recently?
I mean, just it feels like it's an old friend that I'm talking to now and not just me talking into something and hoping that it's good. It's, oh, I'm comfortable with this. Yeah, I'm just going to talk into you and enjoy it. And it's a little weird having Corey's, the microphone he sent me, because I don't know this one as well as I know my first one. But getting to know a new friend as well, I guess.
That is such a perfect transition. That's the exact feel that got me looking into this vlog stuff. I'm going to send you that video. I would love to let you hear what you think, because I remember that it hit me so hard. Like, remembering that the girl's like, I've worked with this camera from a long time. It's not some cheapo thing. It's an expensive one, but I've taken it to 5 countries. I've used it every single day. This hinge is like falling off. All this thing's scuffed up. Like, definitely I want better technology, but this thing, it's actually just getting so damaged. But I have so many memories with it that I can't sell it. I got to put it on the shelf as like, this is like a memory of a friend who hangs around while we're going to start filming it with new stuff. And, that feeling that you have with your microphone, we don't have a word for it, but it's pretty powerful.
I don't know. I'd say nostalgia almost.
And And that kind of transitions to the thing that I wanted to ask about at the end. There's like a lot to talk about this video and learn from it so I can get better at what I do. But I'm thinking there's an extra access to this stuff, like how much fluff and pretty and how much valuable info. I think there's all this other access of a lot of the content is powerful and valuable for just hanging out with somebody. You have this feeling of, I like being around this dude, or I like this camera. I just like having it around. Even if we didn't make something amazing with it, it was just nice being next to it. That I kind of feel is what vlogging and maybe like Twitch streaming is really high end at. But in a lot of ways, that's kind of what we need in all of our content.
I'd say there's two versions of that. There's the version where this person is now my friend and I am invested in their life and I want to know what's going on and I love tuning in. And then this guy, it feels more like wow, I love what he's doing. This is interesting. I wish I had those experiences. I'm going to live vicariously through him.
Yes. Yeah, I like that too. Like, keep coming back to it. That seems to make more sense to me that I almost even forget the other type exists, where it's not that they're, hey, don't you want to hang out with me and be my buddy? It's more like, here's this world that I create every week. And it's just fun to hang out in that world.
I mean, I'll be honest, even when I was working at the bar, even when I'm going and visiting accounts or working an event, I put on more of a persona that I would use if I was making videos like this, to where life is great. I absolutely love everything. Don't you wish you were like me? Here's a product, or here's a video. You should keep watching this because, God, my life is great. Is that the truth? No, everyone has ups and downs. It's absolutely a truth of life that no one's life is perfect.
Yeah.
But seeing it makes you believe it's possible, and we absolutely love that idea.
I've been thinking about how when you create content or you watch someone else's content, sincerity matters, but you are getting them on their best day every day. Every single video, every single time that was a bad time or not a good time, it just got cut and didn't get published.
I mean, even if they had a bad day, I feel like what you do at that point is you just play it up and make it the absolute worst day. So people can connect to you on that and go, oh my God, I'd had the worst day at work. I know exactly what you're going through. I can connect to this.
It's still something meaningful that connects together in a story and a flow. It's not like, well, everything got halfway and got stuck. Everything went halfway and stuck and nothing really happened. And it felt like an entire waste of a day. Like, no one's going to watch that. No one's going to publish that.
I feel like if you're going to be doing this type of content creation, you have to dial all your emotions up to 11 in order to make people really connect and really want to be invested.
I've been wondering about that. I think that's a common belief, but I think that there is I think every time you need to give the audience the emotion that the audience needs. But I think the fact is the emotion the audience need isn't always 11 out of 10. I think there's a lot of times when people have a lot of very emotional things going in their life and very stressful, and they want to just have a little chill hangout. The girls' videos I was analyzing, everything is like, well, I'm hanging out today and doing this, and it's low animated. And a lot of people are like, oh my God, I can't believe you got popular by not being super animated. Like, man, I'm burned out. This feels like the great vibe. Like, could I just chill? Like, yes, chill is what we're doing this week. Like, yes, play.
Honestly, absolutely. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I know who almost need like permission in order to have a relaxing day. And having a video of someone who's doing that is like a way of validating your need for that.
Yeah. It's weird. Like that psychology podcast I love listening to. The guy was actually talking about it. Like, he got rich because he worked his freaking ass off, and he had this complex where he didn't feel like he could ever have permission to relax unless he was on a date. So that's why he dated like crazy, because he wanted to freaking relax, and he could only do it when like the girl showed up. It's like, hey, would you like to watch a movie? I'm like, would you like to watch a movie? It's like, yes, please. Like, okay, I'll do it for you. And it's like all these things that we shove into relationships and demand from relationships, you can actually get it from a lot of other parts of life if you're being more healthy. So having, whether it's a YouTube video to be your crutch to like, you could do this on your own if you felt comfortable, but if this is the next stepping stone to get you feel comfortable that it's okay to like chill for a little bit right now because you have this personality chilling out with you, that's pretty valuable in a hard to explain way.
I like it.
Yeah, I'm surprised how excited I'm getting about this. This is neat stuff. A couple little bullet points I wanted to hit is the little bit I've done experimenting with vertical video. I found two things that actually are immediately valuable with it. Depth is super important in the camera, and getting the ground is one of the best ways to get depth because it will come all the way up to you. And vertical is a lot easier for getting the ground than horizontal. So that's one advantage you can have for it. The other one is I really like skyscrapers and big buildings. I'm going to be seeing a lot of those on my trip. Vertical is way better for that.
That's fair. That's very fair. To your skyscraper point, I would say add emotion of how big it is. Get up closer, but not too close, and do a panning shot upward to really drive home the emotion of you need to look up at this thing. It is big.
Yeah. That's the next thing where, like, that's a brilliant idea with a video. For me, video, there's so many different motions you can do with it where it's difficult and overwhelming that I use photography as kind of my like training wheels to get started. And it's really helped. But I think you're right. I think it's time to the point I've done enough where I should like, let me plan some shots. Let me try some things. I'm actually going to text you next time. Like, I did this. What else shots do you think I could do with this? And you have some really cool ideas. And like start adding that to like what I get familiar with.
No, I'd love to. That's just something where I need to start doing more of it because I can see in my head what shots would be good, what shots I would want, where I'd put them in a video. I just don't take the video.
I think this summer we're both going to start having time to get more practice on these zones. But the advice that I got, I'll hand off to you too. Take one day a week and film stuff just for yourself. Things that you intentionally plan on not making into anything, that you plan on not editing, that you plan on not publishing, just to go out and do it. And it feels like such a relief that you start doing it more. You take more risks and experiment more. So you learn a ton when you have this feeling of like, this isn't ever going out. I could just do it.
That's true. Most of the things I would want to record, though, are me in a distillery. And when I'm standing behind the camera, it's not the same feeling as me being there talking to the people. And when I'm there talking to the people, they like me enough to give me free drinks most of the time. I'm weirdly good at getting people to give me drinks without paying for them. It happened again while I was at a work event. I got 2 free drink tokens, walked up to the bartender before the event even started, just started talking with him, and he gave me an extra free beer without even giving him one of the tokens.
Dude, nice.
Absolutely great skill. Love it. But if I'm standing behind a camera, I can't use that skill. It doesn't work anymore.
Why is that?
At a certain point, they feel like they're just doing it for being on camera, and we don't want another damn influencer thinking they're getting free drinks. But if it's just me excited to be there, happy, it's something that they haven't experienced before.
Yeah,
or at least
that is true. That on camera and off camera is going to be a different real life experience.
I mean, sure, there's times where having people on camera keeps them honest. Like, I mean, I've seen the videos where people say, "Oh, always act like you're recording them at Chipotle, and you'll get bigger scoops of like rice and everything." Sure, I'd rather they cut the rice in half and give me a second burrito for free, though.
Yeah, I think that's another topic that we'll have to dive deeper into it. You're going harder than I was ready to go. For me, it was just, I'm going to feel nervous about doing this in front of other people, and I just got to get used to it. The whole level of how people actually react when I'm trying to like record their side, that is pro level. I'm going to need a lot of practice before I can even ask those questions.
I don't know how I can set up a camera without changing how they will react to it. Like,
I've watched
if
some
I
videos
had
that
just
talk about
a
it.
little tripod and could set it at the end of the bar and record the interaction, it would be amazing. But I feel like they would notice the camera, be looking over at it, and it wouldn't be the same authentic interaction.
I think there's a way to do it, but it's too soon for it to like start digging into that. Like I said, I'm trying really hard to focus on one thing at a time, so I actually improve on it instead of being stunted on 3 things. But let's look into that.
The one thing that, again, I'm stealing from Corey here, and I may not even be right about it, but the one thing that it seems like he's very good at is he goes into a place, makes friends with everyone, and then he asks, hey, is it all right if I record something? And then he starts recording, and then the next time he comes in is, oh, hey, this is cool. Do you mind if I record this? And he just goes with it, and they go, oh, yeah, this is normal for him. He's a cool person off camera, too. But he just wants to capture what we're doing already. Yeah, we're not going to change them. He's not just someone going for something different.
Yeah, that's a general advice I've seen everywhere, where you have to kind of like prime the pump. So even when we do a podcast, if we have someone new, it's good to like talk with them for a little bit before we actually start recording the stuff that we want, because you're going to be a different mood for a while. But after it just gets back to normal. And he seems to be a master of doing that in his real life.
I think so. I need to talk.
Well,
I'm going to make a list of the questions I'm going to text them after this.
Yeah, let's break this up into slice. Get all your Corey questions. We'll save those for another episode. Ask him those. We can come back to that. Let's try to. We're already about like an hour and 40 minutes, so like try to just keep the scope on this. Is there anything about this video that you liked or disliked?
Oh, I liked a lot of it. Again, the framing I thought was just beautiful. The soundtrack choices were great for what emotion he was trying to portray, I believe.
Yeah, I like those jazz tracks.
Yeah, again, no talking in them. It was great background music. I was wrong. It wasn't Kevin MacLeod I saw at the end. It was DJ something. I got that wrong. I'll admit it. As far as things I didn't like, I'm personally not a fan of having text show up. I'd rather hear him talk and interject more of his personality. If I wanted to watch a tour of Ardbeg that didn't have someone's personality, personal experience, I'd more so just see if they have a video that they made, where they had like exclusive access to things that the general public doesn't.
So you wanted to have more of that guy's personality be the spice.
Absolutely.
I
mean,
is there anything that you would do differently if you were going to make the video?
I probably wouldn't have it as good, to be honest. I probably would not do as good of a job. Anything I would intentionally do different, I think I would play around with doing more voiceovers instead of the text fading in. That would be the one thing I would do different, just because I would want to play around with that. And then maybe that transition where it was speeding up and making it look like it was going indoors, but instead they walked over a different way and talked about Nume going in barrels.
Yeah, clean that up.
I would probably change that. Just do a quick cut over to there, or just show a little bit of them walking and curving, but not walking towards the building.
I like those ideas. I'm looking forward to someday you, me, both of us doing these and kind of like giving feedback and see how we pull it off and what new things we'd like add to it.
How about you? Is there anything you would do different or anything that you really enjoyed?
I liked the intro so bloody much. Like going through this vlogging research, I found like that kind of renewed my thing of, oh, I don't want stuff that's just sugar. You know, I see the value of it, but I don't enjoy that. And this was like, it's so pretty. I'm having a good time. It immediately sells me on this is going to be the vibe that I'm looking for so much that I'm kind of just cruising on autopilot the entire 12 minutes he's doing the tour. We're like, yeah, I'm just happy to be in this world.
It was a hell of a hook to get you into the video. He did,
and it didn't have like this dramatic writing. It was just look at this.
Who wouldn't want
So I think it's something that I could probably learn to do myself with the skill set that I built up.
I think he also had the advantage of, look how beautiful this is. Who the hell wouldn't want to be here?
Yes. And that's more like the genre I want to do. Like for the past year, how much of my time have I spent doing like writing and scripting? Very little. How much have I spent learning how to like compose video and photos and lighting? Almost all of my time. So if that's something you can have such a good hook with, oh, great. All this work might actually be useful.
Man, I still think we need to just do a collab video next time we're together. And just your beautiful framework, I'll come up with a script for us, and we'll get something just amazing.
Yeah, I definitely believe teamwork makes you learn a lot faster. So looking forward to doing that. Well, let's wrap things up. I have like what we're going to do for the next episode. Did you want to do any questions before we wrap up, or ready to just move on?
We can do questions if you have one.
My questions were this. This is all my questions I had for you today.
We don't have one for the audience?
No, this was all the prep for this. We're already like about an hour and 45 minutes.
My goodness, yeah, this has flown by. My question for the audience would be, what is your favorite Ardbeg?
That is a very good question. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Right. So this has been really good help because this is preparing me for the trip that I'm going on to Finland, where I'm going to try to take a lot of video, try to make some good content, and do some vlogging style stuff. The next episode we're going to do will be the last episode we record before I leave. And for that one, we're going to practice the skill of your first draft of the script happening through conversation. So I'm going to bring my topic, which is about how the map is not the land. That, you know, the idea or the representation of the world isn't as detailed and minute as the actual thing we have, and we don't want it to be. And that's actually a really good tool for learning how to write, like what level of detail go into, what scope you want to have. So you can actually finish something and it'll actually make it better. And I don't really have this fleshed out yet. We're going to do it live with you by having a conversation. Use that as building my first draft, because I believe that's actually going to be a really good tool for building a first draft. And that's what we're going to do next time.
Sounds great, and I am looking forward to it.
All right, great. Well, I'll see you then, Ryan.
See you in 2 weeks.
Bye.